Hello, everybody. Welcome to Raising Vibrations. Here with Simon today. And in today's video, we're going to be doing an astrology update. And this will be for the chart of the 8th of October, 2020. And the title that I'm going to give today's conversation is Life Lived as a Process of Meaning. And I really think that this is kind of a fitting experience for us right now and title, because we have a lot of energy at the moment that is pushing us towards a split between complete lostness, disassociation, hopelessness, or alternatively, a deeper inquiry into the nature of our individual existence and the meaning of life itself as a collective experience. So hopefully today I could share some thoughts that are brewing within my own space at the moment that could help, and we're going to use the astrology to try to make sense of these things. Okay. All right. So let's get our little chart up on the day. So as I said, this is the chart for the 8th of October, 2020. So if I'm not out of touch too much, I know that recently, for those of you that are living in the States, there's been a lot of emotional sort of attention around the political structure at the moment for you guys. And I can only imagine what it must be like to be in that process. And my heart goes out to a lot of you who are in different ways experiencing whatever it is that you're experiencing. The world itself at this moment in time seems to be in this incredibly profound duality of people feeling that they're coming into contact with something that's deeply authentic with themselves. And that's kind of the narrative that I'm trying to push for people, including myself. And then there's kind of the global hot soup of catastrophe and mess that is swirling around us. And so my attempt today is to see if we can detach a little bit from that process and really kind of just bring our awareness back to the present moment for our own self and what it is that is moving through us right now, and not so much what it is that is actually moving around us, because that has its a storyline of itself. You know, it has a storyline of its own, and it can be very confusing, very destabilizing, very uncomfortable to have your center of gravity deeply entrenched in the swirling chaos that is the uncertainty around us at the moment. So living life as a process of meaning is something that speaks a lot to the Mutable Cross. Okay, so the Mutable Cross is represented by these aspects here. You see the Virgo, the Pisces, the Sagittarius, and the Gemini. And today we have the South Node in Sag, the North Node in Gemini. We have the Moon crossing the North Node in Gemini. We have Venus in Virgo, and then we have Neptune in Pisces. Something to note is that Neptune is squaring the North Node, as you can see at the moment. So we have Neptune square the nodes at the moment. And then we also have the Neptune placement in the proximity of squaring the planetary nodes of Uranus. So one of the things to really understand about interpreting or interpretation around Neptune's placement in Pisces at the moment is that it's going to have a very deep effect on the collective energy associated with the planet Uranus. Okay, so it's not just Neptune and Pisces connecting to the nodes. It's Neptune in Pisces square the nodes that are currently in Sagittarius and Gemini, and also squaring the planetary nodes of Uranus. And this extra layer brings in the frequency of the actual placement of Uranus in the chart at the moment. So Neptune is not just only Neptune in Pisces and Jupiter Sagittarius archetype, or the Mercury archetype with Northern Gemini, but also the Uranus transit in Taurus. So my job is to help you synthesize and let you know what that means. Well, firstly, when you're dealing with planetary nodes, and again, just for everybody that's new to my work, I am referencing the awareness that comes in with evolutionary astrology. And although it's not on this chart, the planetary nodes of Uranus will sit here between 18, 16, and 14 degrees of Sagittarius. That's the south node. And the north node of Uranus sits at the exact same degree as well. So between 14 and 17 degrees of Gemini. Now, how do we interpret a planetary node? It's very, it can be very complex and nuanced, but in a very simple way, the same way that you would interpret the nodes of the moon, meaning the north node is sitting in Gemini, the south node is sitting in Sagittarius. So the road map of our collective evolution, in other words, the way that we are, what road we are walking on, the nodes will correlate to the kind of road that we are walking on, what imageries we see, and how we're experiencing life, the funnel, as it were. Well, when you have a planetary node, as in another nodal axis, as in the south node of Uranus sitting there and the north node of Uranus sitting here, then you're going to look at Uranus in Taurus funneled through the evolutionary intention of Sagittarius and Gemini. Okay, so that's the kind of logical processing here. The intuitive, abstract, non-linear interpretation of that symbolism is that every single one of us, so when we're talking about a planetary node, particularly Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, Saturn and Jupiter, we're going to experience a collective sense of this energy. So everybody will, in some way, shape, or form, be influenced, impressed upon, or connected to this core theme. And that's why it's very important to understand that if you are interpreting, say, Neptune in Pisces, you need to be synthesizing this extra layer of Uranus in Taurus along with that. And you can actually see here, although it's not directly in the aspect itself, Neptune and Uranus sitting over there, they are very close proximity to a sextile. That's a sextile aspect there, by the way, just so you know, those little cross with a line in it. So there is a sextile between Pisces and Taurus, even though it's just out of orb. The sextile is in a whole different layer that I don't want to go into just because it's going to confuse everybody because there's already too much that you've been taking in it already. So the essence of this Neptune and this Uranus and the planetary node of Uranus and Neptune squaring the nodes is that we are collectively all experiencing a deconditioning, so deconditioning Uranus, of and disenchantment Neptune. So that's the sextile occurring here. So disenchantment Neptune, deconditioning Uranus in a sextile form. So we are deconditioning through being disenchanted by collective truths. Okay, collective truths, overall collective ideals and perspectives. Now, what does that mean for us individually? It means that as a collective, we have all lived in a specific point of view, a specific way. We've all seen life through this lens. And Wayne Dyer, who created a film in 2002 called The Shift, I highly recommend that you go and watch that. If you just type in The Shift, Wayne Dyer, in YouTube, you'll see that the movie's there. I think you'll have a great deal of fun watching it. For those of you that have already watched it, you'll totally get what I mean. In fact, it actually inspired me to do a video on the planetary nodes of Neptune and what that means 2 years ago. So the shift. And what he talks about here, which I love a lot, and for those of you that are into human design, he's actually a projector. So you can see how in his process over there, he's kind of, sharing his projector arrows and providing some guidance for us, right? But anyway, he's talking about this shift from ambition to meaning. And I love that so much because there's so much depth in the reorientation towards the way that we feel inwardly in ourselves and the relationship to the outer world and its definitions. And I think that there's a discord that exists between our inner landscape and the outer landscape. And so, in a very poetic way, life lived as a process of meaning is the attunement that we seek to harmonize where there's this discord taking place between the impressions and the definitions and the structure and the way of life that is materializing outwardly and our own inner landscape in which we have shifting values. In other words, we are shifting our values, our core sense of values at a very deep, intense level. We're shifting this very deeply. And one of the ways that we experience this internal shift within ourselves is a heightened sense of awareness around collective ideologies or truths that can seem and appear very outdated, outmoded, right? If you want to go even further here in terms of the explanation and kind of leave the shores of certainty and groundedness and into the realm of obscurity, abstractness, and bizarreness, the Virgo Pisces age, which has been in our focus for the last 2,000 years, has prompted us to be deeply conditioned by and influenced by the perspective of life through unity. Okay, so we see life as we identify ourselves as we, right? And by identifying everything as we enclose other people within the context of our ideals and our truths. And when we do this, we negate the individual experience that person has. And so as a natural kind of process from seeing and defining life through the we as opposed to the I and the you, we, as you hear it, me say it, we create a type of ideology or truth that, in a sense, allows people to align with something that is not who they truly are. In other words, it prevents people from recognizing what their own boundaries are. It prevents people from really recognizing, or it can, and it has, and it does bring everybody into one ideal, right? And it doesn't mean that this is what manifests itself now, and that's what we're really experiencing as this discord, is trying to break out of everybody has one truth that they must subscribe to. And if somebody that doesn't subscribe to that truth, then what happens is there becomes a discord and people can't communicate or find collaboration or attunement with each other, because that discord itself triggers deep unconscious abandonment fears, right? Or betrayal fears. And so we have a tremendous amount of this kind of show up in the collective. And so, yeah, you have Uranus in Taurus in opposition to Mercury at the moment. You have Chiron sitting in Aries in conjuncting Venus in Virgo. And then you have the Sun at 15 degrees Libra, squaring Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn in Capricorn. Okay. And we have this kind of combination here that as we are becoming more sensitive to the discord within us, within ourselves, and the mirroring to the outside world, we feel a sense of need to either control the situation, so creating we type of conversations. We should do this. This is how we should approach it, as opposed to stepping into what is really real for yourself. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it is in my experience, so my experience, what I've noticed through my own healing journey and bringing back the real self, as opposed to the coping mechanisms and false selves and false truths that I had to adopt in order to manage life in that way, which a lot of us have had to do. We see how it sits there. It's this we all the time, right? But what I have experienced is that when I try to create a circle around a lot of things, what I'm doing is I'm creating a boundary, and then within that boundary, it creates safety. I feel safe. But what it does do then is doesn't show me where I will feel an experience of abandonment or betrayal, right? Because that creates a discord, and we don't like discord because we don't really know how to manage our emotions or emotionally regulate ourselves. And so there is a circle that we like to draw around others and put them in there so that that discord doesn't take place. And the energy at the moment with the moon, sorry, not the moon, but Venus quincunxing Chiron and the sun squaring Pluto, etc., is it's bringing a lot of these unconscious, sometimes conscious of fears of abandonment, betrayal to the surface. And it's like we're thrown into the discord. Like the discord is really visceral for us, right? Mercury opposed Uranus. It's like Mercury is bringing us a message from the Uranian field, which is connected to the Neptune field, which is connected to the planetary nodes of Uranus. And so we're all experiencing cultural discord within the context of our own individuation process. And so in a sense, we get caught up in that turbulence and we lose sight of the meaning, right? Moon conjunct the North Node in Gemini, in conjunct, as in quincunxing, blind spot, these energies here. So we don't see that we are in the midst of something deeply transformative in our lives. We don't see that we're in the midst of healing, where the sense of self, that is our own personal space and boundaries, has been put aside in order to survive, right? So we've got a lot of childhood material coming to the surface right now. And one thing that I find deeply saddening, but at the same time, I'm sure you can all see it, is that, and he has one of these truths, right? When we look at an adult, or a person that is grown, right? We see them through the lens of an adult. But what we don't see is that there is a arrested development. In other words, there is an emotional growth process it's not there physically. And so we define another person as being an adult. But really, if we really have to be completely honest with ourselves, there are large parts of ourselves that are still stuck in the arrested development or arrested developed part of our emotional growth. And so this emotional growth path leaves us feeling like we can't actually communicate and draw boundaries, and we have a lot of vulnerability around there. We don't know how to regulate ourselves in deep ways. I mean, obviously, we have got ways to regulate ourselves. They're called coping mechanisms, and they tell us, here's where we have a part of ourselves that is not fully grown up yet, right? So this idea is that we look at another person that's, say, past their 30s, and we say, you're an adult and you need to act this way. And what's really happening is that the behavior is not actually reflecting adult behavior at all. It's reflecting childlike behavior. And that's an invitation for us to see that while we actually do look like we're maturing chronologically in a very physical way, there's emotional parts of us that are deeply stunted, and we need to work on that, right? We need to go and mature those processes. And that's where self-responsibility comes in. And somebody posted a couple of weeks ago, you'll know who you are, Bartek. Thanks very much for sharing that. And I'm sure some of you have seen it before, but there is a video that I'll post. It's called Self-Reliance, okay? And we know who this is from, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he did an essay on this, or a poem on this. And it's a very, very important message for our times, because one of the things that I feel that we have not been able to have, majority, is the ability to feel that we have power to change our lives. And so because we experienced that, Mercury opposed Uranus, we find ourselves looking outside of ourselves for other people's actions to be in alignment with our own needs and personal individual sensitivities. And when they don't react or act in a way that reflects that, there comes a discord within us. And so this kind of comes again to the story of that we are living in a time right now where the meaning in this process, this kind of planetary alignment, is to begin shifting the narrative from seeking security, safety, support outside of ourselves and trying to figure out and find out what it is that's needed and deeply that needs attention in you, and to give more focus to those parts of yourselves that can be more loved, that can be more cared for, that can be more attended to. Okay. And that's a serious thing, because it can be very easy for us to take the responsibility and place it in another person, and then get upset with them when they're not actually conforming to what might be really important for us, right? And so what we find here is a lot of disagreement, we have a lot of discord, and then we lose friendships, we lose relationships, we lose common interaction, because we can't resolve these deeper complexes that are arising to the surface. A, because there's parts of ourselves that are still trapped in or emotionally frozen. That's A. B, we haven't got the support structure, because quite frankly, if you're looking outside of yourself to governmental structures to give you support in some way, shape, or form, you're going to always be abandoned, betrayed, and not seen. So, what's your options, right? So we need to, in some way, shape, or form, come back to the self, to you, who you are, and listen to your emotions, listen to what they say, listen to what they're trying to give you in terms of information about your personal space and what's really deeply lingering in you, because it's the pathway to the soul, and the soul itself has the meaning. So if we can align our sense of outer self, in other words, the identity that you feel presently right now, if you can begin to shift that way of looking at life a little bit inwardly and start to notice what it is that is calling you from inside, and you start to nurture very slowly and very progressively the inner connection to that place, the thing that you seek outside of yourself will become revealed, because we contain it. Our DNA, our instincts tell us what it is that the meaning of your existence is. And that's why we use the astrology, because it kind of gives us a little bit of an extra boost in our ability to examine what it is that's lying beneath the surface. And so the shift from ambition to seeing and being validated and finding meaning externally diminishes. And we move towards meaning through a very deep, soulful way, right? And so this is kind of the message of the astrology at the moment is, let's see how we can begin to shift the narrative from life is meaningful by the things I acquire to life is meaningful through the things I experience. How did I experience my day? How did I experience connection with myself? Through my dreams. How have I given more time to what my dreams are trying to tell me? How do I give more time to nurturing a relationship if you're inclined for that? How do I give more time to building something that supports me and allows me to feel like I'm thriving? These are the types of questions, North Node and Gemini, that can really, really kind of tune in and soften, yourself into deeper layers of understanding. And so I want to leave you with two quotes today. One of them is a South Node in Sagittarius, Neptune square the nodes theme. And it says, faith is a gift of spirit. So South Node, Sagittarius, faith. Right? Gift of spirit, Neptune. So faith is a gift of spirit that allows the soul to remain attached to its own unfolding. When faith is soulful, it is always planted in the soil of wonder and questioning. And here you have this beautiful cross here. You've got the earth energy over here, right? So we're planting into our existence, into the physical essence of our life. We're planting in a soulful way of looking at life. And so we're wondering and questioning, right? We're questioning not laterally, but vertically within ourselves, right? We're deepening our sense of connection to the feminine. We're deepening our connection to the sense of the darkness within us. And so when we seed essentially the thinking and the way of life, in other words, the way that we see life in these places, and we attach to the unfolding of our own personal myth, then life is soulful and we have faith in that soulful experience. Okay. So let's erase this over here and let's move over to the next quote that I've got. And for any of you that don't know who Michael Meade is, he's just amazing. And he always shows up at the exact time that you need him to show up in terms of his wisdom. When seen with imagination, Neptune Pisces, right? All things shift towards meaning, revealing energies that are hidden with appearances, releasing the inner wings of spirit and opening wide the doors of healing and wholeness, right? Let's begin to shift. Neptune square the nodes, Gemini, Sagittarius, right? Uranus right beneath that process. Remember, Uranus, the planetary nodes. Shift our narrative from the value structure of external ideologies and perspectives and truths and aligning with these collective ideals to something that is your personal myth. Who are you? You know, what is your personal narrative and myth about? What shows up for you every single day in your life that's trying to captivate your imagination? You know, what are the hidden energies that are present and are vibrating consistently in your life that when we give attention to, awaken the spirit within us so that we can actually see the wholeness within our being and we can live from that space. Imagine the creative abundance that could flow through you consistently. So that's what I'm going to leave with you guys today. I really hope that you got a lot of inspiration from this. I was really amped to share this with you. Thanks very much for all of your support. If you liked this video, of course, let me know in the comments. I love to read what you have to say. And for those of you that are interested in studying astrology with us, there's a whole entire evolutionary astrology course. I'll put the links in the description below. And don't forget to check out our Patreon page as well, which I'll put in the description and links. Okay. All right, so everybody, have a rocking day. Take care. Bye-bye.